upon Queen's Park to find the compassion and dignity and humanity that is lacking in its current leadership when dealing with the issues of the most vulnerable in Ontario. With recent cuts to childcare agencies, the slashing of more educational necessities, and the promotion of easier access to alcohol, the fiscal and social efforts of past generations' efforts towards creating a more fair, civil, and just society have been diminished by the current provincial government, and in the near, short, and long term will only add to a furtherance of homelessness amongst the people in our cities and towns. These provincial actions, along with the grab bag of benefits for developers, the provincial budget undermining the balance of Toronto's budget, the cutting of $1 billion to Toronto Health, the burden of decades of additional costs being levied on the average Torontonian by the province by the removal of the city's share of the gas tax, the additional transit building cuts to Toronto injection sites, the reduction of funding for families that have been challenged by the obstacles of autism, cuts to student programs in OW and ODSP, a lack of cohesive housing policy, ending the Fair Workplace and Better Jobs Act, the rollback of pharmacare, the cancellation of the basic income program, a redefinition of what disability is, and the elimination of the Child Advocate's Office will only aid in escorting our most vulnerable to an early grave. The responsibility for this undignified state of affairs belongs squarely at the feet of those who support this government in knowingly and willfully reducing life expectancy among the most vulnerable. The cumulative effect amounting to no less than serial murder committed with the chosen political weapons of indifference, ignorance, and an uninfluenceable legislative actions. The current government has proven themselves unlikely to support any other governing direction. Ontario was all of ours to discover and is now for all of us to live and suffer as this government seemingly attempts to create a more competitive, greedy, and vindictive society at the expense of our better human sensibilities, driving the idea of equality into obscurity. Saving a few dollars at the expense of human lives is never an answer. It is a choice. And choices, as we all know, have consequences. And the first to feel them will in all likelihood end up upon this memorial. We know that the current 12,000 youth in care are 200 more times likely than their peers to experience homelessness. And more than half will not graduate from high school. As one of the largest contributors to homelessness in the province, the Children's Aid Societies of Ontario are failing us. It is time to abolish or replace the current system and a consultative process begun with the aim of creating policy to better reflect the needs of familial responsibilities. Housing is a human right, and the time to enshrine it in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms is now. With the federal election on the horizon, we must demand of all who wish to represent us to declare whether or not they will support this requirement. The City of Toronto needs a proactive policy that opens warming centres and additional beds. At the same time, property owners have to have the heat on by law. We need a policy that effectively addresses the needs of the homeless upon entry into any shelter, and we need a policy that reflects the need where it is needed the most, and therefore a housing policy that prioritizes making homelessness a thing of the past and is of the utmost urgency. In this time of uncertainty, where standards of service are undermined by cuts that devalue the most vulnerable people in favor of corporate tax breaks, we must all stand in opposition to the notion that no life matters when it comes to the corporate bottom line. Any one life is more valuable than all of the profit in the world. Therefore, we must remind our current leadership that humanity cannot be found in surrendering human empathy to corporate indifference. So once again, I call upon City Council and Queen's Park to do their part and effectively address Toronto's homelessness, shelter, overdose, and housing crises with policies that reflect the meaning of the words dignity, compassion, and equality. Thank you.
About this and eventually kind of what will happen. So, you want me to bring the mic there?
Can't even build a homeless memorial. Building affordable housing. Yeah, affordable housing now. Can't build affordable housing, can't build even a Toronto homeless memorial. This gentleman
But the pages were getting, the more pages you added, the smaller the font typeface got. So now we have permanent pages from the beginning of this at 1987 until 1918. Each month now, when there's a new page, you can just slide in. So you don't have to reprint. And that anybody can come along and find the page they're looking for and the names they're looking for. So April D, who was just sung about, is right there. in June 2009. So we're renovating the board as well, the big structure here, but we're a bit behind in that. So I did a mock-up so you can see what's coming.
Jim, who cares how big it is? It's all happening, it's not right, and the city's very responsible. And I'm speaking for everybody here. This is an awful way for us to live. I'm homeless, and I care, and I cry, but this is not right. The city should do something for its people, not for the rich, for us homeless people. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
So we're almost finished. We just have a brief time for announcements now, and then everyone's welcome inside for a meal. Could I have up first, is anybody here to give an announcement about the action on Thursday? Who's gonna, you do that? Okay. And we'll have a few more announcements after that. Please keep them as short as possible. We've already gone fairly long today. But Kevin up to give an announcement about the OCAP action that's being supported by Shelter and Housing Justice Network.
And the OCAP action is being supported by myself also, and the Ontario People's Political Party. And we do encourage more people to get involved. I first became aware of this about a month and a half ago, somewhere around there, when I received a flyer about a meeting on Oak Street. And what I did was I instructed the new incoming leader of the Ontario People's Political Party, Mr. Troy J. Young, to attend the meeting. Because our party focuses a lot on homelessness, on hunger, and social issues. And I do believe that these buildings on Sherburne Street is an eyesore, and it's really a slap in the community. For you to have such a large amount of homelessness in that area and have these large buildings sit down there vacant with such a large parking lot there, it is just a disgrace to whoever is the city councillor of the area, and it's also a disgrace for any other officials in that area. You can't have people dying on the streets due to homelessness while you have largest amount of properties that are stayed vacant and stay empty. So I do support this action, and I do encourage others to support it. My health does not permit me to travel too well, so if I can make the action, I will try to be there to be a voice. I have been an ally, and I've also opposed OCAP for the past 25 years. I have been in the city of Toronto campaigning for social justice, but there's a lot of their actions that I fully support, and this action I do fully support. And there's also another lady here. She just arrived, Patience Constance, and she's going to speak after I speak, or after Troy, and she is with the Toronto City Council Youth Council. So we hope that we can have the young people get involved, and with the voice of the young people, maybe that will resonate to the older politicians who have been there for so long. So I do support this actions, and I do encourage other people to support it. And I do encourage other political parties to support it too. And God is with us. One love.
In 2018 Forward 24. A big part of my campaign was addressing our housing crisis as well as homelessness in the city of Toronto. I'm honored to always join Kevin Clarke and a huge group of individuals and do hunger feed outs that impact so many. I'm just here to stand as a reminder that yes, you know, it's very easy to call out our government, to call out city councils, to call out legislative assembly and say do this, do that. But I really want to urge every individual who is really passionate about creating change, passionate about creating this impact, to go in front of these leaders and make deputations, make these things known into their faces. And you don't have to do it in the most polite way. It's a real situation, it's a real life. We're tired of sucking up to a lot of these leaders and trying our best to explain calmly. There are many people who are dying and are dying in the worst states. It disgusts me. I don't think that in a country like Canada, we should suffer that type of suffering. I feel like we can do so much better, but I'm telling you right now, we can't do it alone. It's so amazing to have everyone come out to the memorial. It is a beautiful thing seeing everyone come together, but I just want to urge everyone that we need to do way more than what we're doing right now. Get out of our comfort zones, help those who are in need, one, because, you know, life happens. There's so many situations regarding homelessness. We need to break the stereotypes and remind everyone that we are normal people and it can happen to anybody. And we also need to remind the government as well as it can happen to them. And at the end of the day, there are so many priorities that the government is dealing with at this time from 2018 to 2019 going forward. And we need to make sure that this is a topic that does not leave the table, because the moment we give up, the moment that we're silent is the moment that there's silence forever, and we do not need any more names added to that list. It is enough, and I'm just here to remind you all of that. Thank you, God bless.
Responsible for us. They're building expensive condos all over the city where people with millions of dollars can live. Why not look after some of us people who are not able to pay anything like that? And God, it's awful. I'm a Christian. I pray every day for God to be with us and to help us, but it's hard. It's hard. And I just believe the city is so responsible, and I believe it's the devil working in the damn city. Thank you.
Oh, brother, just one thing. I must tell you, you look great for 70.
Thank you.
All right, give this man a hand. Thank you for speaking, brother.
Thank you, everyone.
And that's the voice of the homeless coming directly to all those in elected office.
Please come inside for lunch.
All right.